and welcome to ELOSOFUMARTAKES. This is our 292nd take, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. It's going to be a fantastic show. We're going to have amazing drinks, amazing cigars, and an amazing conversation. I've been looking forward to this show for quite some time, so it is without further ado that we go ahead and get started. But before I get to formal introductions of my guest of honor tonight, we do have to thank the people that make this show possible. That, of course, is our sponsors. And tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. Drew Estate has announced the return of Liga Privada Unico Year of the Rat. Its spring release is available now at Drew Diplomat retailers nationwide, kicking off its annual spring appearance with a fresh batch of Year of the Rat just a couple of days ago. The Year of the Rat is celebrated for its rich tradition and deep connection to the story of Florida Panthers' 1996 Stanley Cup Finals run. The Year of the Rat cigar commemorates the legendary rat trick performed by Scott Mellenby, which became a symbol of good fortune and tenacity both on and off the ice, capturing the spirit of one of the hockey's most memorable tales. Jonathan Drew, founder and president of Drew Estate, shares his thoughts. The premium cigar industry has a culture of storytelling and at the brand and personal level, but it should never override the fundamentals of quality, consistency, and flavor profile. The Year of the Rat is blended in Nicaragua shortly after the release of the infamous Dirty Rat. This year's Year of the Rat features a luxurious dark Connecticut broadleaf wrapper, a flavorful Brazilian binder, and a robust blend of Nicaraguan and Honduran fillers. Cigars are meticulously crafted in a 5.5 by 46 Corona Gorda size and are known for their distinct fantail head, making each smoke a unique experience. So check out your Drew Diplomat retailer today for the spring release of the Liga Privada Unico Series Year of the Rat. So, and welcome everybody. So if you are tuning on to us on Facebook Live or listening to us elsewhere or listening to us via podcast later on, remember that all of our podcasts and audio production is sponsored by Gran Habano Cigars. Honest, compassionate, great cigars. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review today. You are a subscriber. Please unsubscribe, but don't forget to hit resubscribe. That really helps my numbers. So make sure you do that. Again, our audio broadcast is always brought to you by Gran Habano Cigars. Honest, compassionate, great cigars. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review today. So without further ado, this is our 292nd take. It is my pleasure to welcome this distinguished gentleman for this wonderful take. So without further ado, our tonight's guest is sponsored by United Cigar. Smoke one today and start living united. Yes, it's Aaron Michaelis of Flint Knoll Winery. Aaron, how you doing tonight?
I'm great, Bear. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. I've had one sip of coffee. I'm about to drink some wine. I'm about to smoke some cigars. I mean, life can't get any better. And I'm having a conversation with you. And you're next to like the world's biggest wedding. I mean, it's like a celebration of life today.
It is. Edna James is playing next door. It's fantastic.
Yeah,
I'm hearing the great music.
The first dance tradition.
Can it get better? First dance tradition. Yeah, being here in Palm Springs in a hotel. The world of a traveler. It's fun. It's good to be with you. Can't be smoking a cigar, which would make life easier. I was going to sit outside, but there's probably going to be some negative Karens out there as soon as I was lighting up. So I just figured I'd be in here and join you with some wine. One of the two things tonight.
There you go.
So yeah, but we'll have to do this again so I can actually have a cigar with you via.
Yes. I think that's in order. So I think that's in order. I mean, it is a holiday weekend, so I mean, a lot of people are going to be doing some drinking, some smoking. Apparently, weddings. You know, all kinds of shenanigans are happening and stuff. We'll get to what we're drinking here in just a second. But I thought it would be a really good opportunity, really cool to talk about. I asked you earlier today if you had a lot of people actually get the difference between Veterans Day and Memorial Day mixed up, which is always kind of funny if for some folks or just confusing for most people. But I always say it's always a good day to thank a veteran, and
absolutely,
it's always a good day to remember those who died serving their country. So, but
Amen.
I asked you if you had any family that had served and died in combat, and fortunately they didn't die in combat, but they did serve this nation proudly. So this was your grandfather, you were saying?
Lee Castor. He went by Bill. I don't know where all that came from, but Lee Castor, he was in the Marines. And he was a tough cookie, man. He We lost him a couple years ago. He a farmer from Kansas, from Furley, Kansas, and he was a go-getter. He did raised cattle. He did a bunch of farming, and he worked at a meat packing plant called Cudahy, which is now owned by, yeah, I can't. This is very Midwest.
No, you can't make that
But
up.
you can't make that up. Good man. I mean, a hard working dude. That's my mom's dad, and they don't build them like him anymore. He was a tough cookie. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, he wasn't the grandfather that was tickling you. He was pulling your arm around your back, calling you uncle, and then no matter how hard you worked, he looked at you and it's like, you could probably work a little harder, type of thing. So, but he was a good man. He was, I remember when he passed away, you always trying to put yourself together, and you get older and you try to build the facade of, trying not to lose it. And then when the Marines came out and they were folding the flag, I mean, boof,
Mm,
I mean, you just,
God.
you lose it. And it was, I mean, the keeps things in perspective. So
Yeah.
this is, yeah, God bless the men and women that have fought for this great country, and let's not forget that.
Yeah. You know, my father served in Vietnam. Had other family members that served this country. Um, in uniform. Again, thankfully, I'm not that old, so my father did survive. Uh, thanks to one man in particular. And my dad, to save the long story short, my dad's tank, he rolled over a landmine after the entire road had been cleared for several miles, and he went about 100, less than 100 yards, and hit a landmine that was supposed to have been cleared, but it wasn't. Hit a landmine, fell back into the tank. Door shut down on my father's face, knocked him out cold, obviously. And then the tank started setting ablaze. His battalion sergeant pulled him out. And I was trying to do some research on this, and my dad's health unfortunately is failing, and so like he couldn't remember the gentleman's name for sure, and I was pretty sure who I knew it was, but I didn't want to say any names or anything like that. But I thought there was an interesting story that came about as I was kind of trying to find this out and confirm this. Was My father served in the Charlie Battery of the First Battalion of the 44th Artillery, and turns out there was a sergeant. This was after my father had come home, but there was a sergeant who actually was awarded posthumously the Congressional Medal of Honor from his battalion. So
Wow.
I know for a fact it wasn't the same guy. This guy was a kid. His name was Mitchell William Stout, and he gave his life while protecting those he was bunkered down with by firing a grenade in 1970. So March 12th, 1970. So, but yeah.
Wow.
So I thought it'd be great to talk about small world a little bit, same
No, I
battalion,
mean,
anything like
yeah.
that. But I thought it'd be
When
good
you
to
hear
talk.
about what these, and they were all young,
Mm-hmm.
did, and it's just, it's humbling because I feel like we don't have the perspective of, you know, what those people did for all of us, and going through the traumas and the damage and the fighting for us. They didn't think about that. They weren't they were in the battle, and this is what we're trying to do. And the key thing is to survive or win. And man, I mean, we need to remember that
Yeah,
for sure.
he literally was a kid. He was 20 years old. He was 20 years old. Had achieved the rank of sergeant, so he had been in the army for probably since his 18th birthday. I don't know much more about him. I will get to know him a little bit more and just kind of reading a little bit about it. But
How old was your dad at the time?
My dad, my dad actually volunteered, so he was not drafted. My dad
Right.
volunteered. My dad went through college. He did, in addition to athletics, playing baseball, playing minor league baseball. Um,
Okay.
he got done with his baseball career. He had done ROTC in college, so he went to OCS and then got commissioned as a second lieutenant, and then was stationed at Fort Bliss in El Paso, which is where he met my mother. And and they went off to Vietnam and the terrible stuff that happened to him there. But
Wow.
so came back and married his sweetheart, and my siblings and I are the result of that. So here we all are. But I um that sergeant who saved his life, who pulled him out of a tank, I'll be forever grateful.
That's
So,
amazing.
but in spite of the fact I don't know, I'm pretty sure I got the name right, and I'm pretty sure I know who it is. I was looking through some records and stuff earlier today, but I don't want to missay it and mischaracterize or but I thought this was a fun little twist, honoring Mitchell Stott, who came from the same company, 20 years old, displaying I'll do the last thing here, but displaying great courage. Um, Sergeant Stout ran to a grenade that was thrown into a bunker, picked it up, and started to run out of the bunker. As he reached the door, the grenade exploded. By holding the grenade close to his body and shielding its blast, he protected his fellow soldiers in the bunker from further injury and death. Everyone else survived except for him. 50 other
That's a
soldiers.
man.
Yeah, it's incredible. Incredible. Like your grandfather. There's so few people, and Coop and I have talked about this on previous shows. There's so few people who run the wrong direction. I don't know if I could do it. Probably not.
I mean,
People who run the wrong
I'm
direction.
thinking of me when I was 20, and I don't. I mean, and I was raised right. I mean, my parents taught me how to work and be thoughtful of others, but man, I
Yeah.
mean, until you're in that moment, it'd be easy to say, "Yeah, I'm going to be a hero," but really, I mean, who has the few?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, on to cheerier subjects. I do want to, but I did want to start off Memorial Day talking about, the holiday. I think it is
No, it's
important.
important.
So,
I mean, it is, and I think we braze through these things and we just go, oh yeah, and it's a car sale, and we can get this discount on furniture, and yada yada yada, and yeah, no, it's actually it's serious, and it's a good point, and I'm glad that you shared that story. That's awesome.
absolutely. So let's get on with tonight's major point, which is always brought to you by Gran Habano Cigars from the fertile lands of Honduras. George Rico and his family put together the very best vintages. We'll be talking about vintages tonight. The very best vintages for you. Yes, you, the cigar smoker, from value-based hits like the Corojo No. 5 to the award-winning 20th anniversary to special projects like Zulu Zulu. Gran Habano is about cultivating the best and making pinnacle cigars for the market. Culture, tradition, quality, premium, handcrafted. That's it. It's Gran Habano cigars. So, Aaron, I'm really excited about this. So, one of the reasons why you're here tonight, obviously besides my inviting you, was last year I had the good fortune of speaking with Steve Abbott. Steve Abbott came in on my show. It was this is all serendipitous. Steve was fantastic. He was so gracious, and what a wonderful interview he was. I was wanting to interview him, but he was actually a last minute substitution because of some circumstances. And your good friends over at STG were kind enough to send me some cigars, and one of them was the Flint Knoll Reserve #1. So the first in
Churchill.
Yeah, the Churchill. And he's like, "Why don't you smoke that?" And I was like, "Sure, sounds good. Well, let's light this up." And that cigar absolutely blew me away. And I don't say that very lightly, and I don't say that very often. But I was all preconceived notion and everything that you could probably possibly wonder about a cigar completely shattered with that. It was absolutely incredible, incredible. That was it was, if not the best, one of the very best cigars that I smoked last year, hands down, and the best Macanudo I've ever smoked in my life. So high praise, high praise.
Thank you. Well, it wasn't obviously just me. It was a large group of people that put that together. Me being a little nerdy, and then me stressing everybody out. And then by God's good grace, it actually came out and was a beautiful release. Have you had the first release recently?
Yeah,
The with some age on it?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it's better now.
I think it's gotten better. Yeah, I think it's
I
gotten better.
mean, you're getting more of the oak and the citrus from the cab, and you're getting these just more nuanced in the power. It's been fun to watch it evolve. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was I listened to that. I can actually tell you where I listened to that episode. I was traveling, naturally, shocker. And I was listening to you guys, and I was listening to him, and Steve has been a huge part of working with the whole team and putting things together. And Steve has a great patience level with all of the different samples that the whole team and working with him and Chris Tarr and the marketing team and putting things together. And obviously, Victoria behind the scenes is dialed in and is making a lot of things happen and getting you the cigar, obviously. So it's been quite the journey. It's been a lot of fun.
Uh, Absolutely. I'm really excited tonight because not only do I have more of the Flint Knoll reserves, I have the second edition of these. Thanks to you, I do have the Churchill, and I also have is this a Toro?
That's
Is
a
that what
Toro.
Toro? So
Yeah, we
we
did
have
two sizes, Churchill and Toro.
so um now I wanted to get your thoughts on this from the very first edition because I thought, while very good, I thought the Churchill was hands down the best of the two Vitolas on the first edition.
I would agree,
Did you? Okay, okay.
100%.
So I didn't know if you noticed a difference or could tell, or what your thoughts were.
I
What
felt like in
what?
the beginning, the Toro was a little bitter, kind of at the very end. Got a little when you were smoking it, kind of midway. I felt like it didn't have the beautiful marriage of everything kind of building each other in and being softer and more elegant.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little more harsh and with a more mild to medium cigar. Um, it was, when because this is kind of like a moving target
Mm-hmm.
and working with the team, and you never kind of know. And we wanted to come out with two different sizes. So the Toro is the number one selling SKU in the cigar tobacconist shops and for people and what they want to grab for. So that was kind of more of a let's do this. But there's so many things that we've learned and I'm learning, you know, and the comparisons between wine and cigars are so incredible. But the ratio between not just the length and the ring gauge, but what that does for the filler, the binder, and the wrapper, and how that builds the complexity of the cigar. And I almost felt like the Toro was kind of rushed and brought a little bit of a kind of two of an early spice, and it turned into this bitterness. But now I will say, with age, the Toro is absolutely better and more beautiful and more refined. It's interesting. I never kind of, even when we were thinking about these cigars, because you get so excited when they first come out. I mean, you have to understand and be in my shoes when this whole collaboration happens, and
Yeah.
when you actually have the ability to work with this incredible team and put something together, you're just so anxious about it. And this is kind of like when you bottle a new vintage of wine and you want to drink it, and it's in bottle shock, and you're like, "What did we do?" And when you put the cigars together and you release them, you're exposing yourself to what they are when they're young. And these cigars have done better with time and with age. And I think with any of these things that are so handcrafted and from the earth, they need some time to mellow and kind of come together. But I would totally agree. The Toro did not sing like the Churchill.
Mm.
Churchill was spot on.
So we've got the release number 2
Hmm.
in the Churchill format and the Toro format. So you're a fan of the show, which I'm humbled by that. So you know how this goes. Which one am I
I get
smoking?
to pick your cigar. You're
Yep.
gonna smoke the Churchill.
Yes, sounds good. Awesome.
That's what you're gonna do.
I was hoping you'd say that. Not that I'm not excited to try the Toro, but man, I'm jazzed. This is gonna be
And
awesome.
we put cellophane on them. Did you see that this time?
I'm very grateful for that too. Very grateful for
Yeah.
that too. But I took
You
good care of
live
the
and
new
you
ones.
learn.
Hey, it's the little things that you don't think about until you need them. So
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I get it. All right. Well, let's go ahead and light up this bad boy. And in addition to that, but wait, there's more, right? We'll actually go ahead and cut this.
I'm sorry I'm not joining you.
I know I do, but I am going to be joining you with a drink because, again, thanks to you, not only did I get these great cigars, but you also were kind enough to send me a 2021 Royal Appointment, which I'll take this gorgeous looking tissue paper off because, what's inside is truly very special, but every single bottle of Flint Knoll is special. Because I absolutely love the design work, and I know that there's a story behind it. But look at this bottle. I mean, this is just absolutely exquisite. I love
There's a lot going
the
on.
design. Yeah, the raised label from the very thing. It's the first thing for people listening to podcasts, they don't get they're fortunately don't get the appreciation of this. There's the label is raised. And there's this particular reason for this. There's a lot of homage here. Aaron, so I'll let you kind of talk through it a little bit.
Okay. So when we look at it, it is a white-tailed stag, and the eyes have sunflowers. And a white-tailed stag is very common in the Midwest. The sunflower is significant to the state that I grew up in, Kansas. In Flint Knoll, I grew up outside of the Flint Hills in Kansas, out in Wichita. And my family was in farming, construction, and oil and gas. And grew up in the Midwest, hardworking family. You'll kind of see everything is an ode to not my last name, Michaelis, or my first name, Aaron, what my friends call me, Aaron, but to where I grew up. Because I think it's a very important, kind of like our conversation earlier. When you think about the people in our lives and what the people did before us and how we get where we're at, I think it's easy when you work your tail off and you get places in your life, and a lot of people forget sometimes that where did it all begin and how did it all start. And I think it's, for me, I'm a human. I'm flawed. By God's grace, I have been a slow buffalo, but I keep learning to try to become better. And just like farming, every year you have the opportunity to get better. So when I designed and created this label, with my good friend Eric Saby, and then my wife was, at the time, my girlfriend. She was a big integral part of it with blending and everything. So it's been kind of a family thing. Was to do an ode to how it all started. So when you look at the label, I wanted to create something that always tied back to where it started, in Kansas, in the Midwest, farming. And where we're in Napa, we farm grapes. Everybody forgets that we're farmers in Napa. People look at the beautiful wineries, the beautiful vineyards, the beautiful terroir, but they forget that it's farming, and we're farming fruit. And it is a lot of patience. It is a lot of stress. It is a lot of diligence to be better and to always constantly every year to try to get better. So this is homage from growing up. If you look at the label, it has this almost shield looking like pattern to all of our labels. That is actually a receiver of a shotgun over and under.
Oh wow.
So when you think about the old shotguns with all the filigree patterns on the metal, that is how we built all of our labels. And both of my grandfathers loved guns and collected them, shot them. Grandpa Bill Castor, he had swords and he had old guns. Grandpa Herb Michaelis, my dad's dad, he had tons of guns. And when you grew up in the Midwest, um, when you're a boy and you work hard, one of the fun things was to go shooting. And when these men that are significant in your life had these incredible things, these heirlooms and these things that you loved, that was just part of the childhood story. And so when we were putting all the packaging together, everything has a tie back to where I grew up, even to the eyes of this label being from the state flower of Kansas, which is a sunflower. Everything is just a node. So you look at the cigar label, what you're looking at right now, all that pattern is called filigree. And that is what they would do. The blacksmith used to do that on the armor for shields and for armor. And the more ornate it was, it showed your royalty. So the more noble you were, the more you could afford to have the more ornate filigree. And then when it turned into the shotguns or the swords or the shields, the more the blacksmith was, the artist was good, it became the showed your nobility, but it also had to be functional. And so when we're creating wine, our wines are very regal and beautiful, but they're also functional and enjoyable to drink. So it's all this kind of symbolism of all these things working together.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, with your permission, I'd like to crack this bottle open and join you for a drink.
I think you should. So what kind of corkscrew are you going to use? So it would depend on how I brilliant. So see the little knife? Take that little knife out.
Okay.
See, go on the side of the little wax top and pop it off like a little medallion, like a little coin. It's like a little dollop on the cork.
Right.
You can just pop it up just on the side.
Yeah, I'm trying.
Or
to.
you can go straight through it if you want.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately I'm not. It's not popping for me.
Then just you can go right through it if you want. I always pop it off. I do it all the time. My wife says that I make it look easy. So you can just go through it if you want with the corkscrew.
Okay.
Or just pop it off like a little coin.
Yeah, I was trying to. I'm gonna need some
Okay.
more experience.
All right. Then,
Yeah.
then you just use the corkscrew and go right
Sounds
through
good.
it. You'll be
Sounds
good.
All right. Let's
No
do it.
good. Sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
See what happens when you try to be too cute with your packaging.
It looks gorgeous though. I mean, it's
So we use the soft wax, as you can see, to go through it.
there it is. There's the coin. Just popped off.
So I really don't like foil. It drives me bonkers. So I used no foil, but we did a copper drip neck on the bottle. And copper is a lot in our packaging to kind of show the significance of in the world of metals, copper is beautiful when it's young and it's shiny. And then when it turns older, it patinas. And wine, when it is young, is absolutely beautiful and bright and delicious. And when it gets older, aged like a fine wine, it becomes more elegant and soft, just like copper.
Okay.
So there's a lot of layers in my craziness. I know you would appreciate that.
Absolutely. Are you kidding me? This is like totally my jam. Awesome. Well, I also I lit up the number 2 Churchill. Let's go ahead and pour this beautiful. Oh my gosh. That is some gorgeous looking wine. Holy cow. Holy cow. I'm going to pull up the glass here in a second. Wow, God, that's gorgeous. See if we can get some of that light on that. That is gorgeous. That is.
So this is gonna be fun.
That is a hue that I have, a very unique hue on that I've not seen in very many wines. I'll tell you that.
So the when you first pop and pour is what you just did. Typically, people would want to decant it and let it have some air, just like when we talked about the first cigar aging and having more time.
Mm-hmm.
It is going to be fun while we sit here and hang out. You tasting it now, and then when we continue our conversation, you trying the wine and watching her completely change and open up. Right now, you're going to get more brambly fruit and like pipe tobacco and a lot of this rich flavor, and you get a little more alcohol. And then when it just kind of opens up, you're going to see a little more elegance and softness to it. You're making
Yeah.
me nervous.
No, no. Well, I was taking in what you said, and then I was
I
adjusting my
know.
palate stuff. I do get some of that tobacco. That's right. That's pretty it's pretty apparent for me on the palate. This is really very rich.
Yep.
Yeah, just stunning bouquet too, man. That's fantastic.
I can't wait for it to open up a little bit for
Mm-hmm.
you. And then you kind of just see it change. This is going to be fun. So let's see. We'll just see how it evolves. And it's so big that, people in the wine world, your somms and stuff, some of them absolutely love cigars and wine. And then you have your purist who are going to lose their senses that we're pairing cigars and wine.
Yeah, we're
And if
actually
you're
going to talk
not
about that.
having, if you don't have fun and you don't push the envelope, eh,
It's true. Well, we're going to do some little experimenting too with it, and as we kind of explore your story, we are going to get into a more traditional conversation like we normally do. But I did listen to an interview that you gave about pairing wine with cigars, which we'll get into a little bit more in the depths of it here in just a little bit. But you mentioned that you prefer Cab and Maduro, that they make a better pairing typically, Cabernets
I,
and
I
Maduros.
did say that. I did
So
say that. Yeah.
I brought out a Maduro cigar as well, and I thought
Yeah.
we would try that later on too.
I
So
love it. I
but
love it.
I did light my Macanudo Flint Knoll Reserve, a number 2 with the gorgeous fluo lighter from ST DuPont, and it just lit it up perfectly, except for a little user air there on the edge that I'll just tweaked up. But I'm gonna sit here and enjoy the cigar, and we can continue our
Perfect.
conversation. So, you talked about your growing up in Kansas in the Midwest and everything. Um, I mean, obviously, you probably weren't thinking about making wine while you were a kid. Certainly not in
No.
secondary school or anything like that. But was like you mentioned your grandfather was a farmer in Kansas. You had your roots very much in Kansas. I know you went to college, in Wichita State.
Yeah.
Like were you looking beyond Kansas at a young age, or was it something that just opportunity that came about because of circumstance?
I grew up in an incredible household. My mom and my dad are probably some of the coolest, most down to earth, grounded people you'll ever meet. Um, they did the best the parents could do. They were hardworking. My mom was farmer's daughter, and then my dad did construction and ran the construction for the family on that side of the business. And they always taught us to work hard, and we always worked as a family. I was always a dreamer. When I was in kindergarten, I didn't do well in school, and I was better at recess than I was at doing studying, so they wanted to hold me back. And my mom at the time was like, "Hey, I think I should homeschool my son." So I was homeschooled from first grade till the end of high school. And everybody always says that's why you are odd the way you are. Uh, and went to college
No holds
and
barred. Yeah.
graduated. And shocker, and I'm a Wichita State shocker. And the whole time was kind of an old soul. Well, I worked at a family farm. It was 500 acres from my uncle, mowed around 80 to 90 acres, and then took care of multiple parts of the property. And we're talking, I don't know, this is probably, I'm not going to get in trouble, 12 to 13 years old, and was running equipment and machines and had a lot of time on my hand. and also just loved researching different things and would go through. I was just this odd kid. I loved guns and I loved things and cars, and I fell in love with cigars at a very young age, even before I could smoke them.
Hmm.
And I don't know where it came from. There was a neighbor that we had growing up, and he smoked cigars, and he was one of the coolest dudes. His name was Cy Nobles. He was just super cool, very calm, and he just had this swagger about himself. And he had the cigars, and I think I would probably he's to is a culprit in that because you kind of look up to people. My dad was not a cigar guy, and my dad still doesn't drink or smoke cigars. Both my grandfathers were in tobacco, but they, chewed or chewed on cigars. But they weren't cigar smokers.
Hmm.
So um, I was getting all of these cigar aficionados and at a young age and reading through all these cigar magazines and the book of cigars. It's a navy blue book. It's small. It's like 4 by 7. And I remember going through it, learning the sizes and all of the different things about cigars. And my mom probably thought I was a nut job. So, gun magazines and cigar magazines. And here's this kid, 16 years old. Like, what is going on? He's a nut job. And I knew I loved lawnmowers and I loved John Deere and I loved all these things. And we had an Alamo flail. And I was just, I mean, you imagine sitting on a mower all day and you're thinking, daydreaming about stuff. Well,
Yeah.
I started getting cigars at a young age and sitting out there and smoking them while mowing 90 acres. He had a lot of free time. And when I turned 18, I went and applied at a cigar shop. And I remember Wendy Jacob looking at me and she goes, "What do you know about cigars?" And I was like, "I'm glad you asked," you know? And she hired me, and then I started working at the cigar shop and was such a nerd. So I was doing construction for my dad, was taking care of the farm, and I was going to college. Just graduated high school, and then I worked at the cigar shop, and that was my fun job.
That was Chateau
Well,
Cigar, right, in Wichita, Kansas?
yeah, cigar chateau.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've been to that shop.
Are you serious?
Yeah, been to that shop. Absolutely.
Those nerds there, Chris, they have a picture of me with the old Macanudo bus. I was 22 years old. The old Macanudo bus. I have my Macanudo polo. Obviously, didn't have the beard, and I'm standing there, and I'm outside wearing my Macanudo polo, standing by the Macanudo bus, smoking a Hampton Court, and they have that in the cigar shop. What a full
Circle, right, man?
picture!
That's crazy.
Just, dude, it's insane. All I can say is God is good. It's crazy. I mean, people are like, "How did you pull that off?" And I was like, "Well, obviously that's a higher power making things happen, and a lot of incredible people, and me not to screw it up is kind of the next the next journey." So, but yeah, and then that's when the wine journey happened.
Hmm.
There
There's
was
a
a
wine
younger,
store next door, right?
it was right next door. And there was a gentleman there by the name of Jamie Stratton. He was younger, he was cool, he was hip, and he taught me a lot about wine. I had a very good friend of mine still to this day. His name's Mike Murray, and a good buddy named Brad Stevens, and we were all just Muppets in Wichita, Kansas. But we're little fish in a big fish in a
Is this
little pond.
the
I don't know.
Young Vines? Is this the Young Vines?
I started a wine tasting group called the Young Vines.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Nice.
I learned so much. We were teaching young professionals. Look at you. Look at you reading and paying attention. Um, and it was a
Sounds like
good
something
way
I would
for me
do,
to
Aaron.
learn.
So, like, honestly, I mean, I got all my fraternity brothers in college hooked on cigars. A lot of them still smoke today. Yeah, I did it. So, man, is that like
Well, it was cool because Mike Murray and I, there was let's say a get together when we were like 19 or 20, and I had my own humidor, and he was outside my house smoking a Padron Maduro 5000. And I was so frustrated. I was like, "You went in my humidor, dude? Like, you know how expensive those are?" Like, we were all in college, and I was like, and he's like, "No, I brought this." We became instant friends. He's smoking Padron 5000 series Maduro at the time, and I'm like, "This is so cool." And this is, I think, before they even had all of the anniversario or anniversary or whatever they call it
Yeah, it was right before they
stuff. I
started
mean,
releasing them.
yeah. And I couldn't have afforded any of those. So that was just it was I was smoking Bauza. Do you remember Bauza, which is made by Fuente?
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that? The green label with the little tobacco leaves on it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those and that's when Sosa cigars were coming out. Do you remember those? And
Yeah, I
they had the
remember
Puros
Sosa.
Indios, which is so you had Sosa, the pyramids, and you had the Puros Indios,
Indios, the green label. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
the green labels, the brown label versus the green label, and we were smoking all those. And then there was a cigar shop downtown. Oh my gosh, is Old Town Cigar, and he had everything Bahia. Never heard
Yeah.
of Bahia.
But he was the
Went in
bomb back in
there,
the day, man. God
dude,
bless.
dude. So tried the gold label, the yellow labels or orange or whatever it was called, with the gold with the kind of, and then he came out with the red kind of banner around the logo. Those were insane. Those were so good. I mean, and I always kind of wonder if I went back and smoked those, would those be as good as I remember? And I want to hope so. And I'm almost kind of glad that I can't have like the Puros Indios, that pyramid. I'm like, would I like it as much as I did then as I do now?
I mean,
It's just so interesting.
there's blenders in the industry today. I mean, Pete Johnson still swears by Puros Indios. Nick Melillo. I mean, these guys, they grew up on that in that time period too. And
It was
they loved it.
amazing.
Yeah, they loved it. Yeah.
And Butera, do you remember that cigar?
Oh, of course.
That
Yeah.
Connecticut?
Still around. Yeah.
It
I,
is?
yeah. Butera? To my knowledge, it is.
Oh,
So, no, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Baccarat. I don't know why. I confused
oh,
those two for a second. Yeah. But yeah, there's
I
a,
did smoke some Baccarat when I was younger.
yeah.
That sweet tip. Oh yeah.
I'll tell you what's a tragedy though, because I smoked Puros Indios and I remember thinking like they were good. Like I enjoyed
Mhm.
them. I don't think I didn't fully either one of two things. Either just the cigar wasn't for my palate, didn't blow my palate the way that a lot of other cigars did. Or I just my palate wasn't sophisticated enough to appreciate what it really is. And that's a shame that I can't go back because like you hear about like yourself and like I said, Pete Johnson and like Nick and like all these other people are like, oh, Puros Indios. I'm like, God bless. And I'm like, yeah, I smoked those. And I'm like, yeah, they were good. I just, it wasn't the mind blowing experience that a lot of these other people talk about for me that I remember. So I'm like, man, did I either it just wasn't for me, and that's fine, that
Well,
happens. But
I'm
like
I'm obviously significantly older than you. I'm 44.
significantly, you're 4 years older than me, Aaron.
Okay. Well, I mean, I do read at a 40-year-old level as well. So there you go. Uh, do
Yeah,
you remember
you
when
you were in
the
college when I was in high school, like the same years.
okay, okay, all right. Do you remember when the old Rothschild, like by Punch and Excalibur came out, and then they had
Yes.
the Maduro, and then
Mhm.
the double Maduro,
The
and you
double
could get those
Maduro
for
Maduro.
like $2.50.
Yes, they were epic, man. It was great.
Oh, oh, in the 50 count boxes.
I
And
remember
then
when Fuente short stories were like $4, man. They were great. Romeo and Julietas were
those
like
were
5.
good.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
good
I
stuff.
always loved the 858. Even to this day, sometimes I go back to the Fuente, just the traditional
Hmm.
858. It just throws me back. That cigar, the ring gauge, the sun-grown's killer. I get it. I get all their other things. I get it. It's just, it is, yeah. And that is what makes me, that's what makes me, I love those days of learning about cigars. It was so much fun. I mean, it was quite a journey, and I was such an oddball out. I mean, there's only a few of us. Everybody thought I was nuts, but I loved selling cigars to the older dudes that would come in, and they'd look at me and they'd be like, "Who are
Who the
you?
hell are you?
What are
Yeah.
you? Who are you selling to?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if you'd like that cigar. It's a little strong. It's probably too spicy. I don't think you'd understand. I don't know if you'd get it." And they'd look at me like, "What planet are you from? Who are you talking to?"
Listen, boy, I'll smoke
So,
whatever I damn well please. I can handle anything. Whoa, this is really strong.
yeah,
Well, yeah, told you. Yeah, it's I
yeah,
there was no greater satisfaction for me working in retailer as like when you had a customer's palate nailed, and then there was a new cigar on the shelf, and you're like, this one right here, give it a shot.
it was fun because you were excited for them.
Hmm. And then when they came back, they're
Oh
like, "You
yeah,
nailed it! You nailed it! How'd you? Oh, man, how did I love this?" My college roommate,
you
I would do all that.
go ahead.
Oh, my college roommate was a Macanudo smoker,
Yeah,
and that was something he had with his grandfather, right? And so, and we smoked cigars, all the time going into adulthood and stuff. And like I would always bring him a cigar, something different. I was like, "Hey, here's your Macanudo, but here's something else." And he's like,
yeah.
"Man, this something else is really good too. Like, how do you do that, man?" And I'm just like, "Well, it's easy. I mean, it's really easy to your palate's like insanely easy to find something for, because there's always going to be Connecticut shade. There's always going to be lighter
You were
cigar.
a psalm
Yeah,
in the cigar world for the cigar buyer. That's what psalms are supposed to do
trying
in
to
the
make
wine world.
yeah." He always thought I
How's
was
that
full of
wine
shit when
opening up?
it's really good. I'm really there's the bouquet is really kind of softened a little bit, but it's still very rich. So you get a lot of it's like this like opening up a fridge full of like just like fresh berries. Like you get a lot of blackberry, getting a lot of like
Yeah,
strawberries, raspberries. There's just kind of nice woodiness to it as well, kind of on the.
French oak, and that's what's a part of the cigar.
Mhm. But I'm this is God, this is delicious. Jesus. Man, it is fantastic. That is absolutely gorgeous. Really, really enjoying it. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you so much. Uh,
Absolutely.
I wanted to go back to Wichita for a second because I'm very
Yep.
fond of the city. I know that like why Wichita, Kansas, really? I'm like, yeah, man, Sedgwick County Zoo, really cool stuff. Like, my kid's mother went to college there. She went to Friends University. You and I talked about that. I think,
It's so cool though.
yeah,
I mean, what I don't we did okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Yeah. That is
yeah.
yeah, that is pretty crazy.
No,
Okay.
no,
Yeah, yeah.
Nola's Pizza. Nola's
Oh
Pizza.
my, it is yeah. Did you
Yeah.
do the buffalo chicken
I no,
pizza
I
there?
went full fucking crazy and I did the Coney Island pizza.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Coney Island pizza. Basically
Wow. You know
it's a
Nola's
chili.
pizza.
I love Nola's Pizza. Every time I drive to
Oh.
Wichita, that is my first stop. That is my first stop. Yeah.
Don't tell me you're like New Way. Don't tell me you go to New Way sandwiches.
No, I can't say I've been there.
Okay, good.
So
Okay, good. All right.
I know
Yeah.
Mike Pfeiffer is watching somewhere. Pizza Mike. He's from
Yeah,
Wichita, and then his family had that
I
pizza
love it.
place. So
Good people.
I know that that's probably fighting words with him when I talk about how much I love Nola's, but I still it's so fucking good. I
And
love
then
it.
my family loved Angelo's pizza,
Okay,
which was yeah, yeah. And then obviously Pizza Hut is from Wichita.
right,
Not anymore, but used to be.
yeah, that's where it started, which is crazy.
Hmm.
But yeah, Cigar Chateau. That's it's down off of Rock Road, right? I don't know. Has it moved
Rock Road
locations?
in '96. I mean, well, what is that? Oh my gosh, this is making me a horrible person. 96 from Rock Road, yeah, off of K96. What is that? No, what is that? Well, it's on Rock Road, right across from Walmart, right next to used to be the old Oliver Chelsea's Grill and Olive Tree restaurant, and it was over there. It used to be it was an old Barnes and Noble. It turned into Jacob's Liquor and Cigar Chateau. Yeah, they have actually one out west too. Wichita's divided into two, east and west.
East and West, right?
I yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you would be on the east side, which is closer to the
Was
university, right?
it was it's my family still lives in Keachai, which is out by past it's north, closer to Valley Center.
Mm. Yeah, but I love the city. I thought it was really great. Really beautiful small town. Great people. Um,
Good people.
great
Very
food.
good people.
Good stuff. But then after your time at Cigar Chateau, you as you mentioned, you get into wine, and then you got to work for Ravana Family Vineyards. So tell us a little bit about that, how that came to be.
Yeah, moved to Kansas City and then worked for a wine distribution company called LDF. And then with a business partner, Teet Patel, bought an old Irish pub and then we turned it into a gastropub. So we were playing in the restaurant industry. He's still doing concepts. Was a great business partner. We learned a lot together. We got out of that and sold them and then got out of the wine distribution business and was offered a job by a winery that I used to sell in distribution called Ravana, and that was in St. Helena. And so Dr. Ravana took a chance on me, sold a lot of his wine and a lot of Napa cabs in the Midwest and in Kansas, and gave me an opportunity to move out there. Worked for him for 2 years and learned a lot. And if he hadn't taken a chance with me, I would not be where I'm at today. And was always kind of that serial entrepreneur, wanted to always kind of be, if I'm going to work this hard, I want to try to do it myself, which is crazy because I think to do what we're doing in the wine world, you either have to be super brilliant in so many different areas, or you just have to be slightly dumb and very driven in most of them to do what we do. But I wanted to go on my own, so I started my own consulting business, which was called Flint Knoll Resources. And where I grew up, there is an incredible family that was great to the community of Wichita called the Koch family. And they had their top producing business, which was called Flint Hills Resources, which was Flint Hills where I'd
Yeah, where
grown
you
up.
grew up.
Yeah. And so starting a consulting business, I kind of wanted to do a nod to where I grew up, called it Flint Knoll Resources, and then consulted with smaller brands, smaller families, got to help sell wine for other people, would go in and help them repackage and do design work on their own packaging, and then kind of help them get exposure. Then started getting the opportunity to work with different families with different properties, manage some properties, work with different vineyard managers, and kind of got the whole spectrum of being behind the house and in front of the house. So if you kind of look at the whole consulting business, I was in the front of the house by being a server and a waiter and a som, but I also was in the back being the sous chef, the chef, and the line cook. And it was doing the dishes, all to keep the thing going. And was able to pave a way with a lot of people putting trust in me. And um, I was that was the time when I was like, I want to start my own brand and started knocking on doors, met an incredible gentleman, believe it or not, from Canada. And he was such a character, Rob. And he was like, you have a gift, and I want to invest in your gift. So he was like, I think you should start your own brand. And I was like, okay. So he literally gave me carte blanche and gave me the kind of gave me I didn't think that I didn't believe in myself, but Rob Quinn was just like, "Hey, you're really good doing things for other people and you've been an entrepreneur. Go do it for yourself. And if I can help you, let's get you there."
Mm-hmm.
So, we he helped me with some money and went and started knocking on some doors with different people that I had worked with. And a lot of people said no because they're like, you're the sales guy, you're the marketer, you're this guy from the Midwest. What are you going to do? You're going to go compete against the big boys, you know?
Well, let's back it up for a
And I
second,
didn't,
real quick.
yeah,
Let's start with the guy who invested in you. Like, he said, I'm
yeah,
going to invest in your gifts. Now,
yeah.
we kind of fast forward a little bit, and you're talking about how you're knocking on doors and getting laughed in your face a little bit. But but honestly, like, what was it like to have, like, you said you had grew up with a great family, so they obviously supported you,
Incredible.
and you know, so a lot of people have that feeling with family. Some don't, but a lot of people get that kind of support from their family. To have that from not a perfect stranger, but to have that from someone outside the family, to have that from a stranger, to kind of have someone have that kind of almost family faith in you. I mean, that's got to be,
Big. It's huge.
I mean,
It's a pivotal moment where it gives you a confidence to, um, my wife would probably laugh. It's words of affirmation is what I always kind of do well with. What is your love
love language.
language?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think, when you are in the battle and you're making things happen and you're in survival mode and you are just constantly making things happen, and someone stops you for a second and is like, "You're good at a lot. Why don't you go do something on your own and let me help you?" That is huge. And I think that's why all of these pieces of the puzzle, that why I didn't put my last name on the wine label. There are so many incredible people in the wine industry, but a lot of people, I think, um, don't tell enough about how many incredible people get them where they're at, because it takes an army to get you where you are, especially in the agricultural world. The men and women that are out picking the fruit for you at 2 o'clock in the morning, the families that believe in you to sell you their fruit. Because if Meredith and I owned every vineyard that we source fruit from, we would have to have around 800 million to get all the fruit. We don't have that. But they believe in us and allow us to source fruit from their incredible vineyards to make our take with our winemaking team. It's very humbling, and it makes you feel honored. All these people that come in your life, Rob Quinn, all of these people that give you the opportunity, you just go, God, that is unbelievable that you are providing these things. I didn't always look at it that way. Sometimes you think, oh, this is me because I'm gifted and I'm talented and yada yada. I didn't choose to grow up in the Midwest. I didn't choose my parents. I didn't choose the gifts that I had, but I do have the opportunity to use them in the right way.
Hmm.
So I always, at 44, continue to be humbled by, I mean, I could go down so many different paths and so many different things of how this all happened, because there's 7,000 different stories of how the little brand Flint Knoll happened, how we got connected with Macanudo and all these things. I mean, you and I could be on this FaceTime for 14 hours and not even touch it. It's incredible because it
Absolutely.
shows you how many incredible people there are to help people like me.
So we'll get into a
So,
couple of those stories. So I thought this would be a good time to take away and take a break for one of our fun segments, and you know what's coming up as a fan of the show. So without further ado, we're gonna take a break real quick and do our presidential trivia segment, which is always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, and the highly acclaimed Atabey, Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. Well, Aaron, you hail from the great state of Kansas, so it's fitting to to honor the president who's from Kansas. No, he was not born in Kansas. He is actually only one of two U.S. presidents to be born in the state of Texas, and that, of course, is Dwight D. Eisenhower, who was born in Denison,
Ike.
Texas, but grew up in Abilene, just 2 hours north of where you grew up there in Wichita.
Mm.
So
Yeah, super
Uh,
sexy little town.
so here's the question. So Dwight D. Eisenhower is credited with giving the presidential retreat known as Camp David its name.
Oh,
What was the name before and who founded the retreat? Was it President Warren G. Harding and was it called the Presidential Retreat? Was it B, founded by Franklin Delano Roosevelt and known as Shangri-La? Was it C, founded by William Howard Taft and called Camp El Jefe? Or was it D, founded by Ulysses S. Grant and called the Palace Retreat?
my name starts with A. Second letter, my name is A. I'm gonna go with A.
Seemed like
I'm
a good
wrong.
curveball to go at you. It's a pretty basic name, Warren G. Harding, Presidential Retreat.
Oh, presidential retreat.
He would be the
It's
place
not
that
El Jefe. There's
he
no El Jefe. It was not called El Jefe. It
um
was D. It's
no
D.
no it was not D. It was not D. But you would think that it was Warren G. Harding, who was like a scoundrel. He would have probably had like several retreats that he probably would have founded, all founded by the taxpayer. No, it was actually founded by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and believe it or not, it was called Shangri-La. Yeah, Camp David
No
was
way.
known. Yeah, and Dwight D. Eisenhower changed the name because he's like, I'm just a simple farm boy from Kansas, and that's a little too fancy for me.
That's pretty fancy.
Yeah,
Shangri-La. Okay.
Shangri-La.
All
Yeah,
right. All right. All right. All
yeah.
right. Why David? Like David in the Bible that took down Goliath?
Um, I think it was just a simple name. I don't. I need to do a little bit more research on the name. I just know
Okay.
the name part of it. That he was the one that
That's
changed it.
funny.
But
That's funny.
we actually
Do
just
you
did a
know
bunch on
who?
Eisenhower because we were talking about how he founded the interstate system in this country, and you know,
Hey, and Nixon, his right-hand man. I mean, there you go.
the Power family, man, the Power family of American politics. They're Eisenhower's grandson, Nixon's daughter. You know, got married together, and at the time
Well,
that
that
was.
was a question that you had, what, 5 episodes ago
Mhm,
in one of your episodes? Yep.
sure did, yeah.
Yep. Yes, you did.
So,
Well, I failed, but I
uh,
learned at the
hey,
same time, and that's what life's all about.
hey, I mean, it was a curveball. That first one's just a base. Sounds basic enough. Sounds like more of
That's pretty
a
funny.
definitely, yeah. It sounds like more of, yeah. But Shangri-La, his name's Shangri-La, Camp Shangri-La before it was Camp David. Yeah.
Shangri-La.
So
That's pretty bougie. That's
yeah,
even more. That's pretty. That's Napa bougie.
yeah. Well, FDR, the New Yorker. He might have liked the Midwest for his retreat. Hot springs and everything, but
There you
he
go.
he liked the fancy name for his retreat in Maryland. So
That's so funny. I
we'll
love
sit
it.
there.
I love it.
Well, that was our presidential trivia segment, which is always brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana, celebrating its 30th year. La Giana Havana selling its 30th year of manufacturing. Distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, the Firecracker, and now the highly acclaimed Atabey, Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. And join us starting June 14th. Yeah, Flag Day. Also, the birthday of the United States Army. We'll be doing 20 days of United once again. It's a tradition we started last year. So we're going to be smoking a United cigar each and every single day to honor this country from Flag Day on June 14th all the way to our nation's Independence Day, July 4th. So join us and hashtag, join us on Instagram. And don't forget to hashtag it 20 Days of Freedom, 20 Days of United. Smoke one today and start living united, everybody. So this is fun that we have a trivia, the trivia segment, obviously, but we also have a charity segment that we do, on a weekly basis where I get with my guest and we feature a spotlight, a charity of their choosing. You chose a very familiar charity to me. Now, was this because you've noticed that I've done it before?
I've heard
Or,
about it. I've heard
or
you've done it before. Yeah, and I thought it was cool.
yeah,
And for what's going on, this weekend, and my wife was in the veterinarian world, and she's always rescued dogs, and our dogs are rescued. So I was just like, could we do something, tied back to a little bit of everything? And I think that it's an incredible man's best friend. And I thought that
Canines
that
for
would be,
Warriors. It's a
yeah,
fantastic
yeah. And
organization.
so I think for this weekend, you know, I thought that was great. And it's so funny when I texted you, I told Meredith, I was like, I think he's done that before. I think he has done that. I
Mhm.
was like, oh my gosh. And so I was like, but you know what? That's just perfect so there I am. There we go. It's the
Yeah.
truth. But I think it's great. And I think I've had so many good friends that have served, and you know, I have not, and I don't deal with the courage that they have put for down for all of us for our freedoms. But I think that what this does for these men and women, and for the dogs to be their companion and their best friend to help them work through things, is such a beautiful thing, and I think it's really cool.
The number of lives that they've saved through their organization, both four-legged and two-legged, you know, um,
Yeah.
22 a day. It's a statistic that I will say I say a lot on the show, and I repeat it all the time, and it's a number that should be ingrained in people's heads. And now he wasn't a veteran, but the young Grayson Murray, a PGA Tour golfer, I don't know if you heard about this, 30 years old, committed
Dude.
suicide. I mean, that is just sad. But 22 veterans a day, 22 veterans a day kill themselves. It's a staggering statistic. It's disgusting. And we owe it to them to give them the help. And Canines for Warriors does an amazing job.
Yes.
Incredible. We've brought the mood down a couple of times, Aaron, but we're drinking wine. We're smoking
We are.
cigars.
We're
So
you know what? We're being serious tonight.
yeah, it's okay.
You're a very serious man.
I try.
You know,
You know
this
what?
is
I've
this
had
is
that
me.
reputation.
You know what I'm doing, Bear, right now? I'm bringing in my Matt Booth. You know, I'm kind of bringing in that Matt Boothy kind of. Hey, what would you do? You know, and we have to be. We gotta have to. We gotta bring the Boofy in. That's what's
Yeah.
incredible working with all these guys. I get all these little personalities, and you know what? I like to have fun. I always say when I'm hosting and doing wine dinners, the wines are the most serious thing on the table. I'm just blessed to be able to do what I do. I work with an incredible team. Our winemaker, Philippe Melka, is incredible. Mayan, our director of winemaking, my wife, and then the vineyards and the families.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get all these host of characters in the cigar team that I get to work
No
with.
kidding,
And
right? I mean, that is a cast of
my
characters.
life is not boring. I mean, Justin, Justin, I mean,
Justin's good people, man. I'm like one of the few people that give him less shit than most of my friends. I mean, we give him a lot of crap.
well, when he's starting to wear Gucci shoes, he's kind of making himself a target.
Yeah, he kind of is a little bit. So,
And
uh,
then the whole team. I mean, you've met Chris Tarr. I mean, he's the real deal, Evander
oh
Holyfield.
my gosh, that gentleman is he is one of a kind. I love Chris. I absolutely love Chris. I think he's
And
fantastic.
you know where you stand with Chris. That's what
Thousand
I love
percent,
about him.
1000%, yeah,
Yeah.
1000%. And he wants it no other way. He told me and some of my colleagues in cigar media, he's like, I love it when you trash our cigars. He's like, I wish wouldn't, but I love it because then it allows me to tell our manufacturers, hey, look, these people don't think we're doing a good job. Like, what? How can we better? How can we be better? And then you come out with stuff like this. It
I
blows the fucking mind. It's
I love
fantastic.
that you said that. I love that you said that. You said it, by the way,
Yes.
but it's the truth. How are you going to get better if you surround yourself with yes people? And you need to be critiqued. Not all of us can do everything perfect all the time. But what are you doing to challenge yourself to become better? If you get comfortable, that's when the empire falls down.
Yeah.
If you surround yourself with people that keep you competitive and you want to be hungry, every great artist, every great chef, every great dreamer only is as good as when they're struggling. Not when they're fat and happy, but when they struggle. Because that's when survival comes in. Just like vines, just like creating wine, they only become powerful when they struggle and they are stressed. That's when you get the best. And I think that's incredible. That's why he's such a great leader. And that's why I love working with these guys. And not only do they give me a little bit of freedom as an outsider, they listen. It's incredible. For as big as they are, they listen and they want
Mhm.
to get better. Now, I always say I'm on this little jet ski bouncing around. I told this to Justin and Matt Booth one time and Chris, and they're this huge aircraft carrier. They don't bounce around on waves, they create waves. And so sometimes patience is all about learning how to communicate when you're the little jet ski and when you have the aircraft carrier. But when they want to listen to you and give you the resources and the tools to work with them to do something incredible, Macanudo, you know, I get it. I'm a cigar nerd. I watch you guys. Not to call us all nerds. I watch you. Okay. Not how many wine people are calling you up or chefs are calling you up. I mean, I love the cigar industry. And I love a brand when you see yourself at 22 years old wearing a Macanudo and what it did for me in my life and that brand to come around. I get it. It's everywhere. It is the powerhouse. You're
Mhm.
talking to one of the smallest little brands in Napa competing against the Silver Oaks and the Joseph Phelps, which are the Macanudos in Napa.
Yeah,
But guess
Mondavi, stuff
what?
like that. Yeah.
Imagine Mandavi coming to me and going, "What can we do to help you grow and become even good because you're good at what you do?" That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's
And you
like,
go, "Oh, okay." And you go, "Okay, don't let me mess this up," you know? And, um,
well, we give
and
Justin a
you
lot
then
of
you
grief because we tell him like, "Hey, keep away from these other brands, like, because they keep acquiring stuff and everything." And I was like,
No,
"Man,"
I know. I love
and
it.
I'm
I've
and
heard
I
it. Yeah, oh, yeah.
and but I was like, I asked him, I was like, "Man, how did you find out? How did you find out about Flint Knoll?" Because I thought, I mean, I'll be honest, Aaron, I didn't know much about your backstory, didn't much about the story of the brand, but
Most
but
people in the cigar world don't know
but
about us.
I had had your wine before the cigar was released, and I really enjoyed it then. I'm a big. We're gonna get into this, but I'm a big noir guy. I had your Pinot Noir, and was outstanding. And I was like, how the fuck did you hear this? Like, where did you like? It's like, hey man, like people talk, blah blah, and all. He gave me, some of the backstory on it. And I was just like, man, that's like to your point, like that's all joking aside, and the grief we give Justin and everything, like you said, like that is some powerful recognition when a huge company like STG says you're who I want to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And you know how it all happened was Chris Tarr was the main man. Met with him in Vegas during COVID because California was shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And what does a small business owner have to do? You leave the state that doesn't allow you to run your business, and you go to the states that are open. And we were all over, and I was calling friends in the cigar industry that I used to either go to cigar shops or used to work with. It's such a funny small story. There's not a little, there's a cigar shop called Outlaw Cigar in Kansas City,
Yeah.
and I had a little locker there and met a couple gentlemen, John Farragon. I called the other gentleman who's actually a rep for General Cigar, Rusty Rambo. I call him Rusty Rambo. He will always be Rusty Rambo to my mind, so I'm just going to call him, and he's still a rep. He's the beefy chap. Um, and John Farragon now works for La Aurora. and he used to work with General as well. And so I was calling around, and John Farragon said, I know you've always wanted to do a cigar brand. I know you want to you're talking to this company, you're talking to this brand, and you're talking to these people. And I had pitched the idea to some other cigar brands, and I don't think any of them thought I was serious, Bear. It's like, you're the guy living the dream. You're in Napa. You got a lot. You get what's going on. Like, what are you gonna do? Like,
We're
what are you
busy.
gonna do? Like,
We're busy aging our cigars in bourbon barrels. Get your French
yeah.
joke out of here. Yeah.
And you know who took my call? Chris Starr.
Crystal.
And you know who wanted to meet with me? Chris Starr. So we went and we had lunch. Lunch turned into going to his local golf club, and we sat outside and we smoked cigars and we had some cocktails, and I will use Chris's terms, we nerded out, which was pretty fun because he doesn't like to cigar nerd out all the time. He likes to call all of us nerds. And we nerded out and we talked about stuff, and we talked about the vision and the French oak barrels and what I wanted to do. And he's like, that is brilliant. And I've always wanted to work with a wine brand. And he's like, let's do this. So that day he had called Justin and telling Justin, we need to do this. And we're sending all these French oak barrels from Napa, and we're going to send them to the Dominican Republic, and we're going to be aging broadleaf in them. And this is what we're going to do. And we're going to do this every vintage, and we're going to highlight this. And Justin, I remember him telling me a story when we were in New York together, and he was just like, what are you talking about? What? Like, we're getting what? Like, he had done all the rabbit hole stuff, and then all of a sudden he's just like, what? And it was so funny. And to see it now with the whole team, and we all know each other better, it's been quite a fun experience. And I'm very blessed and fortunate. It's been a journey. We're learning as we go. So
Yeah. I mean, you started the. How does Meredith feel about all this too? I mean, like like she meets you at a wine tasting, and then you guys, bing bada boom, 2016, you guys launched Flint Knoll, and then here you are in 2024, and you guys are like lockstep with the cigar industry too. And that's a wild ride. It's a wild ride.
it is a wild ride, but you have to have a strong woman. That's what makes us better. I think Meredith was built to handle a nut job like me. The woman is incredibly strong. She came from the human and animal health world. She went to University of Illinois, microbiology. She's beautiful. She's smart. She has obviously really, really good taste. And
So you went the opposite with that. Everyone says that she obviously has poor taste in men, but
and it's cute because she told all of her girlfriends when she was moving to Napa. She had worked in human health in San Francisco, leaving Chicago. She's from Illinois, and she told all of her girlfriends she's going to move to Napa and marry a son of a famous winery or family, very powerful wine family. And boy, does God have a sense of humor. She has her own wine brand. She's 50% owner. She's married, and she makes some of the most incredible wines coming out of Napa. But we're rich in spirit, but not in the business account. So you know what? It's the American dream, and it's a lot of fun. It's full circle.
I
But her
imagine.
dad,
I was gonna say, I imagine winemaking is a lot like the cigar business. If you want to get rich in it, you start rich.
yeah,
It's like the old joke of
or
the
you just
cigar
work your
industry
tail
is,
off.
yeah, the old joke in the cigar industry is you want to become a millionaire in the cigar business, you start with two.
It is it is. It's the same. You can make money in both businesses
Sure.
if you want to do all the work yourself. If you want to do it all yourself, everybody, if you want to spend, $14 million on wine caves and you want to have the world's biggest winery, and you want to spend all of the money on owning, $60 million worth of vineyards, it's kind of hard to play catch up. But if a lot of people believe in you and are willing to put their trust in you and allow you to work with what they have and you lease it from them. I mean, think about Starbucks. If they owned every retail space that they had, that would be financially burdensome. But they
Yeah.
can go and do a tenant lease on an end cap of a shopping center and do all the TIs, build it out interior and exterior and make it look and feel like a Starbucks, but they don't own that real estate. But it forms and operates and makes money because of who they are. And what we do is we go in and we work with these incredible families that not everybody can get into. Most of the families that we work with, people don't sell to other people. And we get to go in and lease certain specific lots and rows and acres and get to consistently use their land to produce our wines using our oak program and our winemaking team to create our take of the wines. So it's a beautiful thing. So you can make money when you are conservative and your ego is checked. If you need to be the coolest kid in the room and you need to be the most blinged out, you can lose a lot of money real quick. It's the yacht. It's the yacht experience. It's the person that has the 100-foot yacht and they dock it and they're like, I got a 100-foot yacht. And then next thing you know, the 125 yacht pulls right next to you. If you're going to play that game, you need to be bigger to be better. That's a lot of money. But if you're consistent in your lane and you love what you do and you're proud of what you do and people believe in your product, that slow tipping point of pushing and just growing organically, just like in the cigar industry, if you're willing to put in the time, earn your stripes, it can be not only rewarding mentally and spiritually, but also financially. It's just not easy.
I think it's pretty incredible. It's very similar. What you're doing in the wine industry is very similar to what a lot of boutique, to use that word, and boutique brand owners in the industry do. Someone else manufacturing.
Absolutely.
You're the difference is you are manufacturing. You're just getting the raw material. You're getting the grapes from
Correct.
places. But
Yeah.
and in that similar vein, you're more like a Rainier Lorenzo who just opened his own factory, and he still gets raw material from other places, but he's manufacturing it himself and everything. But
Yeah.
but I think that's really, like you said, that's really special, especially when you have those relationships and you're able to procure basically like it is your own, right? Like it is your own land, and have those same rows, those same lots that will produce that kind of consistency over year. Um, you know, we're still drinking. I'm still drinking the Royal Appointment. But here's a question that I had, because you have a couple of, you have a few offerings. I mentioned the Pinot, that I've had, which is the oh god, it's Silver Eagle, right?
Silver Eagle.
Okay.
Yep.
Didn't want to mess that up. But you have several. There are a few offerings that are in the Cabernet Sauvignon offering. You have the Royal Appointment, which I'm smoking or drinking rather, and then there's Commonwealth,
Mm-hmm.
and then
McClintock, Marquez,
Marquez.
Spring Mountain. We
So
have a Diamond Mountain. We have a Howell Mountain coming along. We're known for our hillside wines, and not all of them are offered, especially on our page. Just a lot of things are sitting there in barrel. We do limited highlighting specific blocks and showcasing different families, terroir, and the farm. So, in order to create what we're doing, you need to go to Pritchard Hill, buy fruit from Greg Melanson, have the blocks that we are, getting Clone 7 Cabernet, using the French Oak program, and having our winemaker and picking when we pick, do our cold soak and maceration, and then do our extended fermentations to create our wine. So, think about being a restaurant. Are you Cheesecake Factory or are you the French Laundry? Are you buying tomatoes? Are you buying tomatoes from where? Are you buying what kind of cut of beef? Are you buying this kind of duck? Are you buying this kind of caviar? And what are you trying to put on the plate? And what are you trying to showcase?
Hmm.
Our customer base is typically looking for what most people can't have, and they're wanting a customer experience that they want to meet the owner. They want to have fruit that most people can't get, and then have a very dialed in winemaking team and expertise creating it, just like a great restaurant. And then um, having this experience to enjoy a wine that is very site specific. So the royal appointment, what you're having right now, the 2021, is from the valley floor. Everything else that we produce Cabernet wise is from mountains.
Okay.
So the valley floor is very fertile soil, close to the water table, always gets that fog, especially during the growing season, during the warm summer months. And so they're not as stressed as much. So you're going to get this more opulent, silky, sexy kind of Cabernet that shows all these nuances of, you know, more fruit forward and a little more flirty, than you're going to get from the hillside. The hillsides are going to be more broad shouldered and more powerful, a little more serious and austere, where this
The
is going to be
viscosity
just
is what kind of stood out to
inviting.
the viscosity kind of stood
Oh,
out
yeah.
to me too. It's very velvety.
Yeah.
The legs are
Very
like
velvety.
really. I mean, there's some really nice legs onto the glass here. Like you said, opulent's a pretty spot on word. That's kind of how I would describe it. And then, but I'm really enjoying the flavors. Like I said, it's the fruit is so forward on this. It's almost I know for drinking enough wine, it's not a Pinot Noir, but like I really like Pinot Noirs from like the Yamhill Valley up in Oregon, and
Oh, yeah.
they're very jammy. I like that
Oh, yeah.
jamminess.
The Willamette, man.
Um,
Beautiful.
and there's a lot of jamminess to this. It's a very, like I said, it's very decadent. It's very rich. Um, it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Like I said, the hue is unlike anything that I've seen in a really long time, Aaron. This is a truly unique wine. Like,
Has it changed since you've started drinking it?
yeah, yeah. And I was kind of noting a couple of things. Like we talked about the
And do you
French
think
oak,
the
the wood use.
cigar is changing your palate while drinking it, or do you think they're complementary?
I
And
think
you
there's
can,
some.
you're not gonna hurt my feelings.
I think there's some compliments to it. I think you're right about um cigars of the lighter caliber. You know, your shade. You know, your shade cigars need to be paired with something a little bit more lighter is not the right word, but a little bit more brighter because there's a lot of acidity. Like
A little more acidity.
you
Yeah.
mentioned like and you were spot on too. Like my first time smoking the number one Toro, you mentioned that it got a little bit harsh towards the end and it had a little bit of acridness to it. And um
I did say that.
I thought of it as that's typically, and that's what made the Churchill so unique. That's typically how a lot of Connecticut shades finish.
I know.
There's
I
just a
know.
bitterness at the end, and when a lot of times is when you get to that point, it's like there's you're done. Like there's
Then
no
you're done.
yeah. So
Right.
and it so in that regard, like I said, the cigar was still very good to me. But what it was very unique about the Churchill is that you didn't have that. You didn't get to that point with it.
Right. Yeah.
There's the minerality of the number two really stood out for me from the very beginning, and so I think it actually does offset the decadence of the wine in a really nice complementary fashion. The cigar is getting drowned out a little bit because the wine is so
It
good.
does. In a little bit. Yeah,
Um,
it is. It is. Yes.
so I can't wait to smoke. I have another. You were kind enough to give me a few. I cannot wait to smoke the number two without the wine, just so I can enjoy it for what it is as a standalone. But I am enjoying the cigar very much so.
You
Um,
had told me on the pre-starter when we were just being nerds with each other. You like coffee. I love coffee. That cigar with coffee. It's interesting when we started this whole thing, I was very adamant because I love cigars and I loved the fact that I got to work with Macanudo and I wanted to beef up a Macanudo, make it again, it was a powerhouse and it was serious and in even the cigar nerds back in the day smoked them, Still don't know who the Portofino smoker is, but they're out there, but I don't know who they are.
They don't watch podcasts. I can tell you that much.
They do not. No. But
but they buy a
what
shit
a
ton of
powerful
Macanudo.
they do. What a powerful brand and what a consistent and fun brand. And then to be a part of it to nerd out. Because I think every great chef and every great winemaker gets to the point of where they're like, we're so successful, but how did we get here? Let's go back to when we were in the trenches and we were really doing stuff that was different that got us to where we're at right now. And that's life, you know? And, it's like how, I love the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that the perspective on the Patriots is an incredible thing. People loved to hate the Tom Brady and how many times the Patriots won because they just got sick and tired of the success. And they didn't see how unbelievable it was to be able to do that.
Yeah,
And it is unbelievable. Okay. And when brands like Macanudo and some of the wine brands, like I'm talking about, like Silver Oak, how consistent they are and how powerful they are, sometimes we forget the quality of what they are. Maybe they're past our prime on our palate, but they're where they're at for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But then those same personalities, what got them where they're at? And sometimes what I think is so cool and humbling and working with the factory, they're nerds like we are, but they don't have a voice sometimes. And I have the opportunity to come in and they're like, let's do something that they're not expecting. And I kind of pushed something where I didn't want to go in the beginning too far off. They did want to work with darker leaves and things. I wanted to do something because I didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves bare in the wine world. Because I knew the wine people, my list, my collectors, the men and women that support our brand. By the way, a lot of female smokers that love cigars, they get it. That has been so fun being on my side of the business and the wine people, the collectors wanting to get back into cigars. Oh, I haven't had a cigar for 5 years. I haven't had a cigar for 10 years. Oh, I had kids and this and that, and I did blah, blah, blah. You just gave me an opportunity. It was so amazing when we sit down with the team. The cigar industry, I thought would be a little more open to our take on this. But the cigar nerds are like, it's Macanudo, and it's a wine brand I've never heard of, and it's expensive wine. Did you guys know that this wine's expensive? And it was just like, oh, because as a cigar nerd, I was just like, oh, the cigar nerds community did not take this well. That was like, who do you guys think you are? A bougie, small, high-end winery coming in and making Macanudo? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying. You've heard it.
Yeah.
And I'll call them all out, whatever. Smoke the cigar. And if it's not your jam, that's fine. And if you're intimidated by expensive Napa cab, hey, you know what? I'm a kid from Kansas. I'd love to talk to you about wine. If you don't know a lot about wine and you feel intimidated a little bit and you want to grow in it, I'd be more than happy to talk to you. If it's not your thing and you don't like wine, totally understand. Totally get it. I didn't think that the cigar world would have this much just hesitancy of like, I don't know. It's wine. I don't really know.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what I mean? A
French
little bit.
oak.
And
I'm used to bourbon barrels, right? That kind of thing. It's
yeah, and I get it. Fine. But what I've learned about growing up in the Midwest, this is how I, don't make friends and I create enemies by all these things that I'm saying right now. But there is also a culture of where you're comfortable of where everybody goes steak and potatoes. Well, there's so many great things in this world. There's sushi, there's Thai food, there's Vietnamese food. There's so many different things. There's Tex-Mex where you're at. Um,
Thank you for calling Tex-Mex and not Mexican food. Appreciate you.
Go try different things, and you know what? If you don't like it, good. Then it's not your jam.
Yeah.
But don't if you're intimidated before you try and you're going to be negative before you even give it a chance, it is that's fine. That's just humans. And then you just try to hopefully kill them with kindness at some point and come in and hopefully they'll give it an opportunity.
Well, that's
So
why I've been so vocal about it. I mean, to be completely candid with you, Aaron, like you said, you are this boutique winery that, like, again, only select people know. The people who know, right? Um, and you're doing amazing things there. Really, really accomplished. I mean, this wine is a stunning example of it. And but I mean, just to be candid, I mean, going and partnering with a again, iconic historic brand like Macanudo, the wine nerd might come along for the ride, but the cigar nerd isn't in that space because Macanudo is this brand that's kind of been not put out to pasture, but it's surpassed and they've gone past it. That's where they started their journey, and it's not that
good point.
anyone's kind of disrespectful to it because
Right.
I for a long time and I made this and but I'm guilty of it. So I'm here to say that I'm guilty of it. That when I started working
I'm
retail,
guilty of it.
right, when I started working retail, I had gone past my Macanudo stage, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to be on to
So did
different
I.
things and the new and this boutique and that things and this is fresh and that, so I'd kind of push Macanudo to the side and disrespectfully so because again, we kind of joked a second ago about who the heck is the Portofino smoker. They're out there. And I can
There's a
tell you
lot
they're
of
out
them.
there because
Yeah.
we didn't carry a lot of Macanudo, but we carried Portofino and that box was always empty. So,
Yeah.
and to this day, like I worked hours at that cigar shop and I can probably count on one hand the amount of times that someone came up to the counter and bought a Portofino. But somehow that box was always empty. I don't know how to tell you. Like it just
That's how
always
we know
was.
ghosts and Bigfoot
Yeah,
exist.
exactly.
Because that's who smokes Portofino.
But and even like then, like with my interview with Steve, he's like, yeah, we were going to talk about Macanudo. Like the whole theme was Macanudo. So I was going to be smoking Macanudo regardless. He's like, but let's smoke the Flint Knoll. Okay, let's light it up. And it's not every day. I can count on one hand the amount of times that I've been blown away. And I use that term, like I said, I don't use that term lightly. I mean, that is a precise description of my experience smoking the Churchill #1 was it was a experience that blew me away for some reasons because it blew away preconceived notions. I have smoked Connecticut Shade before. I've smoked Macanudo Connecticut Shade before. So of course this is probably going to be something similar, and it's not. It's not even close.
No.
If you're going to light up a Flint Knoll Reserve and expect Portofino, you're going to be disappointed if you like Portofino.
Exactly.
Now, if you don't want Portofino, light one up because it's not anything like it. So it's one of those things. It's just like I said, a truly incredible experience.
Do you see
and a
how
blend that
we could
works.
talk forever? I mean,
Yeah,
do you see how I
yeah.
bring people? I'm long-winded. I just could, yeah. So I get it. Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, no, this is fantastic. But I did want to do an experiment. I lit it up. I brought a Maduro to the conversation, unbanded. I didn't want
Are
to.
you gonna tell me? Are you gonna tell me who that is? Box press.
It is box
Okay,
press.
hold on.
I'll tell you
You
after
got
the
it. Is
show.
that
I'll tell you after the
okay?
show. Yeah, I
We
don't.
Nicaragua?
It is Nicaraguan manufactured.
Okay, 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 I'm kind of getting the vibes. What's going on right now? Looks delicious. Kind of very upset about you enjoying these cigars. How did the second release show for you
I enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm really looking forward to smoking it just by itself, kind of like I
by
did with
itself?
Steve that
Yeah.
night. And so the wine doesn't drown it out as much, but I'm still not done with it. I'm gonna finish it. Like I said, there was a
Can I
really
ask you
nice
something?
minerality to it that is different than the first. Yeah, go ahead, please.
What do you think about getting super nerdy and doing like really crazy, darker, richer cigars that are actually meant to be paired with the big wines? I think the cigar works with the wines, but literally diving in because we created a cigar that the French oak broadleaf tobacco was aged in the barrels to be with coffee, to be with bourbon, to be with Chardonnay, to be with Cabernet, to be kind of versatile. But what if you got into something in the weeds and got super nerdy and got into certain things where we're like highlighting different mountains and different regions with specific French oak and making super crazy nerdy cigars for all of us, even, you know, Joe Smith would be like, what is this?
Yeah,
What are you talking about?"
I'm in.
And then, a bear goes, what are you talking about? What are we doing? What are we going on? What's happening right now? You know what I mean? And kicking it up to be a little more, um, not so broad, but a little more honed in.
I'm totally game for that. I think that'd be fantastic. And that's kind of going to be
Yeah.
I was going to question I was going to ask a little bit later on too. Is like, but like I think that I think this is just kind of opens up the door a lot because again, what we saw a lot, a big trend in the 2000, 2010, teens was, and people had done it before, so, but like a trend where a lot of people started doing it was the bourbon barrel aged.
Oh
And
yeah.
so when that certainly caught my eye when I was like, oh, French oak. Okay. Like, let's
hmm
go.
hmm And
Like, so,
these are the same barrels that are used to make some of the great first growths and very premier cru wines made in Bordeaux, and then some of the greatest wines made in Napa were using the same French oak. I mean, we're talking these barrels cost $1,000 to $2,000 new to use uno one time. Um, the vineyards that we're working with are so unique and so, you know, special. It's kind of a waste to not try to emphasize just the quality of what we're trying to do. And it would be super fun. And, this whole thing has been an experiment. There have been people that have been aging fully rolled cigars in barrels. You have Alfonso who talks about creating like these different like aging rooms and using Spanish oak and the French oak and things like that. But we're actually using not just this facade of a story of, oh, there's French oak here and it's this. I can tell you where it came from, the cooperage, what it made, what vintage, hone in and get so nerdy. Darnajou, Terranceau, Sauvon, Bossuet, medium toast, made this vintage, aged this wine for 24 months, and then boom, what vineyard it made, and then what is this going to do to this tobacco? And then we're using Matafina. I mean, imagine creating like I don't know, let's just pull something like what would be working with Sandy with El Titan and
mhm.
doing something like that. And then aging in French oak barrels and highlighting a mountain. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, be pretty
It'd be
boss.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
Macanudo's paved the way for us to get a little notice. And Macanudo goes, watch what we're doing. And that's what I think is so cool working with the team. And Macanudo goes, yeah, we're big, but guess what we have? We have the resources, we have the manpower. We're going to launch this, you
I
know.
I think we're and I know it's an early prediction here, Aaron, but I'll toe the line. I'll go out and put my neck out there with this. With a brand you have nothing to do with necessarily, other than the fact that your brand is adjacent to it. But the new España Emissary, the Emissary España,
Oh, it's so good.
that cigar is fucking immaculate, and
But that's Macanudo.
that's Macanudo. And so this, what you might not have single handedly done because you've been a part of the team, you've been noted
I
that, and I
didn't.
like,
I will literally
but
tell you this. I didn't.
but you could be a part of, but you could be a part of, you could be a part of the rebirth of Macanudo to the
How
point
fun
where
would
it's
that
not
be?
just relevant to the hidden ghost that we know buys Portofinos, but really ushering a new age of Macanudo smokers.
Yeah.
And I mean, you're off to a great start. And Steve's done a really great job with the Emissary España. Like I
Incredible.
said, it's incredible. God damn, that's
It's
good.
such a good cigar. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I've smoked more Macanudo products in the last 18 months than I have previous 10 years.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair number.
And did you think that you would ever say that?
No.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Yes. 1000%.
What if it's like kind of like what you kind of going back to our story earlier. What if I rolled in and I'm just rolling in and Meredith and I come up from El Paso and we go through Houston and we come up to, outside of Dallas and I roll in and I've got two Bohemias and I was just like, we just did it again, you know, and you're like, what? Or Puros Indios or Sosa or you
Yeah.
know, oh
God,
by the
so
way,
yeah, that'd be crazy.
you know, and so it's and those memories of what was in the past and then kind of what's happening in the future and a powerhouse brand Macanudo can make it happen. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. It's
Yeah.
we're it's it but you can't Rome wasn't conquered in a day.
No. No.
So yeah.
The Maduro is standing up a little bit more to the cab. Uh and I think it does make a nice pairing. So like that's a really your palate's really spot on with that. Um so I
And
really
you
like
need
that
to
compliment.
get more you need to get that freshness of the cigar and get it like into the second half to where you
Oh
get a
yeah.
little more of the oil, a little more of the cacao from the Maduro. Kind of let that those richer flavors kind of hit the palate, and then the cab will actually soften and then kind of just it won't be so round about the palate. It's just going to be more center, which is kind of what they're doing with the Bordeaux varietals. In a younger wine like Napa, warmer climate, it's always going to hit on the outside. But when you use that those darker, oilier cigars, it's just going to kind of hold them in, kind of almost like a little hug, and give them a little texture. For me, I love it. You know, I think it's so funny because you know spirits have a higher alcohol and there's a lot more heat. And when you get
Yes.
into bourbons and scotches or PDs or mezcals or all that, those are really going to change your palate.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to just lose themselves and say you just ruined the wine or you ruined the cigar. First of all, I can do whatever I want and I can enjoy whatever I want. And, you know, I don't really like drinking sparkling water with a cigar because I think it's just too brash and it's almost cleaning the palate too much. I want to actually enjoy the smoke. And I think that that minerality is too much for me sometimes.
That's
But
interesting.
that's me.
Pretty much exclusively what I do. I drink sparkling water with.
But see, but
Yeah.
then there's you, and then you
Yeah.
like that. It's kind of like cleaning your palate with ginger for sushi. Not me, man. I want it all. I don't need the ginger. I'll have that later. Um, so it's a personal preference thing, and um, I just think that people need to get away from a lot of the stuffiness. You know, the person that's gonna knock drinking wine with the cigar is a person that's drinking apple flavored Diamond Royal, whatever it's called, Crown Royal apple flavored, whiskey. And I'm like, okay, so now you're smoking an apple flavored, cigar.
Yeah.
So, um,
Well,
or
it's
taking shots of what's the Fireball?
Fireball.
Then
I knew,
you're just yeah.
I knew you and I were on the same page there. I was like, you're gonna say
And I'm
Fireball
like,
or Jaeger
and then
bombs.
I'm like, okay, bro,
Yeah.
you just killed your palate too.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it is, but it's just a personal preference thing.
I think so. Well, it's interesting. John Carney of La Flor Dominicana was the person that I really started drinking wine because he really enjoys wine too. And I
And
really
loves grilling
started
those big steaks.
drink. Yeah, that's true. He
And
was the
by the
person
way,
that I
that is a
started.
key thing.
Mhm.
Good, good.
Yeah, well, he's the person who got me into pairing wine and cigars.
I
And
love it.
with a lot of those bold Florida Dominicanas, you better believe it, those bold reds really, it wasn't as weird, as I first thought and stuff. And but yeah, I've really enjoyed this evening so far. And we're kind of heading towards the end here. So wanted to kind of get into our this or that segment. Where we
Okay.
just kind of more rapid fire and stuff. So I took two simple things. We're going to talk about regions and we're going to talk about grapes. And given your profinity for Napa and Cabernet Sauvignon, well, those two are omitted from these lists. So this is going to be a little bit different. So we're going to go with these first couple of questions are regions. So are you more Monterey or Santa Ynez?
Santa Ynez. Chardonnay.
Chardonnay.
Hands down.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there a rivalry between? Is it Napa versus Sonoma, or is it Napa in the field? Is Napa that high and it's like everybody else, or is Napa and Sonoma kind of like the two powerhouses?
I think. Well, you have Sonoma, which is more Bordeaux. Burgundy varietals. Napa is going to be more Bordeaux.
Okay.
So Sonoma is going to be more Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. Napa would, if they're trying to compete in that world, they'd need to let Sonoma handle that because they're a cooler climate and closer to the ocean, and they do a better job with their soil and their climate. Napa is more of the Bordeaux varietals. You could do some Rhone, like Syrah and Mourvedre and Grenache. But really the Bordeaux varietals are king in Napa. Napa only produces 4% of all the wines that come out of California. So we're one of the smallest wine growing regions in California. We're just the most highly decorated and most notarized of all of them. Okay.
Okay.
So we're not, everybody thinks that there's a Cabernet that comes from California is from Napa. That is not the case. It is the most highly kind of concentrated and regulated and developed in smaller regions. So I would say, no, we're not in competition. They might say that, but we're growing really two different regions and really two different styles of wine.
All right, so let's take these next two regions. We'll go with Sonoma is one of them versus Lodi.
Okay.
Which one?
Lodi, warmer climate. I'm going to say Sonoma.
Still Sonoma. Okay. All right. Next to Paso Robles or the Russian River.
Russian River.
I love Russian River Valley. So good stuff.
Some really good pinots.
Yes.
Very much super sexy. I like Paso. You just told me to pick which one. So
yeah,
I'd say Russian River.
It's rapid fire. It's all good.
You're trying to get me in trouble.
Speaking of Pinot. Speaking of Pinot, so we're gonna go Pinot. I think this one's pretty easy because but you might throw me a curveball here. Pinot Noir or Syrah.
Oh, Pinot all day.
Is it like Cab and then Pinot for you, or Pinot and Cab, or like what's the where are you at?
Wow, this is probably going to shock you.
Neither.
I would say if you put me on an island and you gave me one varietal to choose from, I would say Chardonnay.
Yeah, it does shock me a little bit. But you talked.
Yeah,
I've heard you talk about Chardonnay quite a bit, though. You mentioned
I do.
Chardonnay and how it would pairs well with like Corojo, the spiciness of Corojo and stuff. Like, and
And with that cigar that you were smoking earlier
Mhm.
with
Yeah,
the Pinot, I mean a Chardonnay, voila. Um, you know, Cabernet to me is so it's the ribeye of steaks, and Chardonnay is kind of the sushi. And for me, it's like I love cab. It's hedonistic. It's powerful. It's rich. It's beautiful. I do it for a living. It's what we're known for. So I'm obviously gonna want something that inspires me that I don't know and I want to get better at. So that's kind of the wine nerd inside of you, what we do. We want to be in love with the wine world. We want to be really good at what we do. But what I do is a job. So what keeps you inspired is this little thing on the side that keeps you humble, and then you're always constantly trying to it's like trying to study Italy, and then what let me wrap my head around Tuscany. Um, Cab is the most beautiful red to me, but I'm around it so much, sometimes I just want to have something clean and crisp and delicious, like a Chardonnay.
okay. So Zinfandel or Cabernet Franc?
Cab Franc. Ooh,
Mm,
Cab Franc.
yeah, Zins are nice and spicy, and I enjoy them. Eric Gatormson of Cigar Dojo is a huge Zin guy. Fucking loves them, specifically from Lodi. Like he's all about it.
They're beautiful. They're big in fruit. They're delicious. They're great with burgers and pizzas, and they're great with cigars. They're very forgiving. They're juicy. They're very fun to drink. But Cab Franc is just brambly fruit. Really, just think of like an English pipe tobacco and Earl Grey and just weight and just in the middle part of your palate. Oh, it's powerful.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Cab Franc.
All right. Merlot or Petit Syrah?
A Merlot every day. My second favorite red varietal.
Okay.
Cabernet and then
Merlot.
Merlot. I
Interesting.
yeah, and I love Pinot. Um, Pinot's kind of like a diva. It's a lot of it's high maintenance. When it's good, it's the most beautiful, but when it's moody, it's meh, it's just too much.
It's true. I'm very picky about Pinot. Pinot Noir is my favorite red
You
varietal. I love Russian River Valley. I love Yahimil. Um, Willamette's good sometimes. Sometimes, like you said,
Yeah,
it's very it is it can like I've had bad Pinot, and it's an average cab is better than a bad Pinot,
I
but
would
a
agree with
really
you.
great Pinot is better than a cab. Like you said, I agree with your characterization of cab being it's like the ribeye, and like I love steak as much as the next guy. Like I love red meat, and but I can't have a ribeye every day. Like that's just too much, you know.
I'm from Kansas. I could literally have
I'm from
ribeye every day.
Texas. Like that's like almost blasphemous to say. I can eat beef every day.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
but
oh
like,
yeah,
give me some top
yeah. But we
sirloin or a
should, yeah,
cheeseburger or something.
yeah,
Like, let's cut it a little bit, you know.
yeah. I do.
Um,
Yeah. But yeah, I just love ribeye. But yeah, yeah.
um, for the uneducated, and I thought,
Hmm.
and I think I know, but I'll let you. You're the expert now. What's the difference between Petite Syrah and Syrah?
There's two. It's a two different types of varietals. It's just because it has Petite Sirah is going to be more inky, a little more weighty, um, and I can't remember because I don't work with them a lot. And the Petite Sirah is more Bordeaux, and then Syrah is going to be more Rhone, and it's going to be completely different. So think about apples or tomatoes as a cherry tomato versus a Roma tomato. Petite Sirah is a completely different clone and varietal. It has different characteristics, and so Syrah is going to be not as kind of inky and weighty and condensed, and Syrah is going to be a little more richer and fuller, and gives you more of that with time, especially in like Chateauneuf and different regions, more of that like kind of olive kind of tapenade kind of thing with age, where Petite Syrah is going to just be more inky.
And give me 1 second if you'll just brief hold. While I step away for just a second, talk to us a little bit about old vine versus new vine.
Old vine versus new, with you gone. So I'm going to be talking to
Yes,
myself.
just for a second. I'll be right back.
So think about Bear when he was younger versus Bear now. Young Vine, when you're 18 years old, thinks that you know everything and has a ton of energy and produces a lot of energy. So younger vines are going to constantly be with their rootstock, trying to find resources, trying to find water, and then when they come to crop, are producing more clusters on the vine. Just because you produce more doesn't necessarily that you're going to be more concentrated or the more refined, because you just have a ton of energy. So you're just pumping a lot and producing a lot. When you're older vines, you do not have as much energy. What you are producing and yielding, just kind of like us. And this is actually one of the reasons I think people have a subconscious connection with wine. And when they kind of dive in and are as deep as we are, it's actually very a beautiful correlation, because when you're young, you think you have it all figured out, and you just are just shooting from the hip, and it's just like, don't tell me what to do. Older vines don't produce as much fruit, but what is there is more layered and concentrated here and in the heart. It's in the brain, it's in the heart. It's not just full of energy and just everywhere. What it is producing is less in quantity, but more in the quality and in the cluster and that texture and those layers of the definition of time and stress and what it's gone through is always going to end up in the bottle.
Interesting. So that being said, what do you prefer, old vine or new vine?
Oh, old vine. Less is more.
Awesome.
This royal appointment we only make 350 cases of. Camus Select makes around 50,000 cases.
And that's
Silver
considered
Oak,
small, yeah.
yeah, we're uber duper tiny.
Mhm.
And I love that most people don't know about us. And when they do find us, you're in the inner circle. It's a lot of fun.
Mhm. That's it felt really cool because I don't consider I do love wine, and I do consider myself like in the rankings of things, like I know more about cigars than I do of all the other areas of things that I collect and drink and eat and things like that. Um but I mean, to your point, I did feel like I was part of the inner circle, knowing that I was like, oh, this is really great. Like, wow, you guys are partnering with them. Like, it's incredible. Like, they're
I
so
love that.
small, and
That's cool.
yeah, it was super cool. So, um, well, let's move on to some of our fun segments for the night to kind of conclude our evening, Aaron. I really do appreciate this has been fantastic. Just really enjoyed tonight's conversation, and these offerings have been exquisite. So, really, really enjoying it. Thank you so much. So this next segment is Everybody Eats, which is brought to you by Pastania Cigars. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Pastania Cigars is more than just great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. With Pastania, everybody eats. So, Aaron, you've had a number of meals, I'm sure, always pairing with wines and things like that. So I imagine picking the top would be difficult. So I thought it would be interesting, given the fact that you're really good into exploring your palate. What is a dish or food that you love that you probably would not have tried if you had not had been offered to or forced to by somebody else?
Uni.
Okay. How did that happen?
Was was at a little sushi restaurant in Wichita called Sumo, and the owner offered me uni for the first time. Kid from Kansas, Wichita,
Yeah.
comes out looks like a little brain. Ate it, did not like it. Felt like I was eating the bottom of a fish tank. And this kind of goes to the Pinot thing. Now I would say one of the most delicious, decadent things I love is Santa Barbara and Japanese uni when it's fresh, when
Mhm.
it's perfect. It's one of my favorite things. I'm glad I went back and I tried it because I did not like it the first time, and now um, it's absolutely beautiful to me. It's one of my favorite things.
That's awesome. What what's something that
Sea
you
urchin, by the way,
yeah, for
to
those
all
yeah,
those that
the uneducated, yeah, the unbaptized. So you brought up sushi a couple of times tonight. Like what you so that like one of your meals of choice? Like if you're gonna go out and do something?
Yeah, I think being raised in the Midwest, in the middle of the country, and being landlocked, I love I love the Japanese culture. I just
Interesting.
think the drive to perfection and the attention to detail and the just beauty and the simplicity of great products is such a fun thing. It's so beautiful and so delicious, but in art form.
Yes, definitely. Um, love. I really, really love sushi. I think it's fantastic. But then again, I love most things, and I could eat
I do. I
anything.
love food. So
I love food. I could eat anything.
I love fried chicken. You
Mhm.
know, I love steak. I just like food. Yeah, pizza.
Nola's Pizza, man.
There you go.
What's the what's so return the tables? What's a dish or food that you introduced to somebody that kind of changed their perspective on something that that you know that they probably wouldn't have tried if you hadn't done it?
I I don't do a lot of things great. There's a lot of things that I do enjoy doing. I used to do it more often, and now it's for more close friends. Like if you were to come visit me in Napa, I'd have you over to my house, and I love going and getting big tomahawk steaks that are super, super thick, like 3.5 inches, big bone. And I love grilling them and just doing it by temp and by eyeball, not anything. Just I've done them so often, and it's one of my most favorite things is to grill some steaks and then just have some grilled vegetables and just throw them down. And people are like, you just sat there and had a cigar and a glass of wine while you were just grilling these huge cuts of beef and salt and pepper. And then next thing you know, and fire. And then you pull them off, and then the art form of cutting them, the little Japanese thing. And
Hmm.
then I have specific knives for brisket, which make you proud of being
There you
Texan.
go.
Um, Brisket's pretty special. That is an art,
Hmm.
doing smoking brisket. Man,
1,000%.
patience. Um, but then certain knives for different cuts of beef, and then when you get to just cut them up perfectly, and you got the char, and then just the perfect temp. It's just a lot of fun. It's fun, you know.
That's awesome. Awesome.
And when the people eat it all, that makes me happy because
There you go.
everybody's like calorie counting. No, let's eat
No,
it.
let's have a meal.
Yeah,
Like forget about that
yeah,
stuff. And protein and vegetables. Come on. And fruit with the wine. I mean, yeah, it's good stuff. Sounds good to me. So,
yeah.
I'm interested to hear this one, and I know as a fan of the show, you've heard this question before. So, our next segment is brought to you by Asylum Cigars. Refuge is more than just a physical place; it can be a state of mind. Life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these were made for Asylum Cigars, so light up an asylum and choose your refuge? So, Aaron, this is you probably had several of these moments, but winemaking, cigar making, it's a very community driven thing. It can be very personal, but at the time, and most times, we're often sharing a cigar or sharing a glass like we are tonight. I'm interested to know this. I'm going to make this two parts for you. I'm interested to know, when is a moment that you had a cigar, and what was that moment about? It was just you and the cigar. Nobody else was around. Maybe Meredith, but just pretty much solitary. What was that moment about, and what were you smoking? But I also want to ask the same question about a glass of wine.
Mm. So most of the time when I have a cigar, I'm by myself.
Interesting.
I
Okay.
entertain. I entertain. I'm constantly on. I'm usually hosting and entertaining people, whether it's a wine dinner, whether it's in Napa, whether it's at restaurants, or a very dialed in private experience. And so I'm always on, and I'm never drinking. I'm always top of my game. I'm not even having some glasses like I have tonight. My job is to take care of people, and I'm the host. So being the host, I need to be 100% there. I even put my phone away. The only thing that matters is you. So when I turn off, my moment is lighting up a cigar and then just having a moment by myself. Nothing else matters. I'll turn on a podcast. I'll listen to something. I never have the TV on. I'm just outside, God's creation, just enjoying the rain, the wind, whatever's around me. And that's my peace, because that's why I think I've always, from a kid on a lawnmower, contemplating and thinking about dreams and growing up in Kansas, what is my next step and what am I going to do in my life and where's my path going to be and what can I do, to being a person that is so blessed to be where I'm at, but to have the moment to just kind of shut down and contemplate and be thankful, just to chill. And the last great cigar I've had, to me, it's about a mood. It can be having a red meat lover's beef stick. They could having a Perdomo Maduro 30th anniversary. It could be having a Davidoff Maduro. It could be having oh gosh, an Amazon basin. It could be having something new from Justin that he was doing for Diesel. It could be having an Alfonso. It could be literally what is at that moment I'm paying attention to, and it's just making me enjoy the moment. Am I making you fall asleep? Am I talking too much? My wife
Absolutely
says
not.
I'm long-winded.
No,
Okay.
I'm long winded, so it's probably a bad combination. No, I'm enjoying the wine, and no, that's. I think that this question, it usually it brings about interesting answers, because a lot of people experience cigars very differently, and like you said, a majority of your time is spent around people, and you have to be on. So it's nice that your moment of refuge is that cigar. You know.
Why I wanted a cigar with you tonight is because when I'm having a cigar, I'm not on. I'm with either a friend or I'm by myself, and I'm not having to be anything other than Aaron.
Right.
And that is why cigars have always been kind of my companion, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's why I've always, growing up in the Midwest and not being homeschooled and not always having everybody around me, what was my companion? A cigar.
You go. What about wine?
Man, that gets wine to me is a fun relationship. My wife and I always do blind tastings with each other, and we try to dial everything in, and we always try to stump each other. Vintage. region, new world, old world, producer, winemaker. A lot of humility happen in that. So when I want to shut down and not overthink it, I do open a lot of cab. And then what, like I was telling you, I drink a lot of Merlot. When it's warmer and it's summer months, I drink a lot of white Burgundy. I drink a lot of stuff from Chablis, Merceau, um, and love my champagne. Pierre Peters, Vilmar kind of guy. I love the just that's where I like the bubbly, not in the sparkling water. I
Yeah.
like it with a little bit of Chardonnay. And you know, Merlot from the old world, like Angelus, right? Bank stuff makes me smile. Meredith and I celebrated a year working together as a husband and wife and had an old 2000 Bordeaux together. And those are the moments where you sit down and you count your blessings and you look at the little victories you have and you learn from the mistakes that you made. But you're having that moment together and you're drinking the wine and you're just celebrating life. And that's, I think, the journey. And that's what makes both of these things so beautiful, whether it's being alone and just having your time to just reflect and unwind, or being together and communal and opening something and sharing an experience, but also kind of being a little nerdy and talking about it and breaking it down and enjoying how hard and the sacrifice that it did for it to get there.
That's awesome. I think it's really awesome that you have someone that you are able to share those things with.
It's pretty awesome.
You know, for a lot of years, my cigar smoking was my thing, and I'm fine with it being my thing and stuff. But when you can share cigars with people that you love, care about, and everything, it makes the experience better. Like I said, this segment aside, it's nice to reflect on those moments when you are alone. And in your case with cigars, that's the frequency of it. Like it's your unplug, so to speak. But in your case with wine, it's still great to not only be on with it, as you were describing earlier, but to be off with it and then share those moments with Meredith. Like I think that's really beautiful.
That's amazing.
Well, we are, believe it or not, we are at the end of the night, Aaron. We've got one last question for you. So we kind of hinted a little bit at it earlier when you were talking about nerding out. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts with that. And I hope I don't stumble on any proprietary information, but I just thought it would be an interesting exercise, given our conversation about Macanudo and what I'm hoping is going to be the start of a renaissance of this brand, and you to be a part of it, would be great. But this last segment is our curveball segment, which is always sponsored by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. Fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter. Since the company's inception, Steve Sock has been knocking them out of the park. Count them up. That's nine consecutive years, consensus top three. Congratulations to our good friend, Mr. Steve Saka. So, Aaron, STG comes to you, Justin comes to you, Chris comes to you and says, Aaron, we're opening up the playbook. We want you to do something. We wanted you to do French Oak, another brand. Which one you picking? It's your choice. Dealer's choice. You get to do.
I don't know if I could say, because I might get in trouble. I think the whole team is open to a lot of different ideas. And I know that they're big and I know they're ginormous and everybody likes to pick on the big gorilla in the room. But believe it or not, the whole team from Regis to Niels, to Chris, to Gene, to Justin, to even Boofy, to Sean, the whole team, to Steve. I mean, the incredible everybody there has treated me like I was a part of the team, like I've been there for 20 years, which is humbling, which is
Yeah.
so cool.
That's gotta be cool. Yeah.
And I think if we breach that moment, we have a 3-year deal with the Macanudo with Flint Knoll. We've talked about other things. We're working as a team um, to maybe figure something on the same path, or where do we go, or what do we do, and how's the market accepting it? At the end of the day, it is business, and it needs to work for everybody. And
Mhm.
if you can be in love with something, and if it doesn't fit, and people don't appreciate it or don't understand it, then it's time to move on.
Yeah.
And one of the things that in the business, even if it's perfect and it's most beautiful, maybe in 20 years, people will have it and go, do you remember having that Puros Indios or that Sosa? And then they'll remember what it used to be. You can only do something for so long, whether they believe it or not. And um, all I know is I love the crew that I work with. They're always open to different things. I think you always have to see what the market's doing, what the market's saying, and where we're going to go in the future. We're always going to be friends. We're always going to talk about stuff. So the brand that I would pick would be STG, obviously because they've been big supporters of me and they took a chance on me, and so my loyalty is there. Um, but if it's not meant to move on, say la vie and count your blessings. And if we're meant to do something different, that would be very exciting.
My modest hope, because I'm greedy about this. I love the fact that Sean brought Cohiba back to his roots with Sandy with the CRM. That was really cool.
Isn't that is very cool.
And that's cool that now that STG is distributing her stuff, which is fantastic. I think that's really super cool. I would love to see the three of y'all do something. I think that would be super sick. I think that would be absolutely super sick. Because I love Sandy's work. I've loved what she's done at El Teton. You know, I think she's put out some of the most unique
She's a
products,
legend.
and she really is. And and
And Sean is so awesome. I love that dude.
and she's taking a chance on a lot of young kids, a lot of young people.
Oh, I know.
I mean, Sean was new to the business at one point, and what he did with his brand, and now what he's done with Cohiba, incredible. But like at a time, he was a he was a nobody, and I use that term lightly. I don't, I'm not trying to cast aspersions, but in terms of the industry, no one, and she took a chance on him, and she made him some incredible cigars, incredible, some of my very absolute
Yeah.
favorite stuff that he ever made by himself. Eric By, from Black Star Line.
Oh yeah. Those are beautiful.
That's a cool story.
Delicious.
I don't know if you saw that episode.
Yeah.
That's a cool story. He sent her flowers because she had a relative that died, and he was trying to get her on the phone. She's always busy, as you know, and she wasn't trying to ignore him or anything like that. She just
Yeah.
like had no time to return the phone call, and he heard that that a family member had passed, and so he's like, sent her some flowers, and he
I
finally went
love that.
down there, and she's like, hey, you're the gentleman who brought me flowers. She's like, we're gonna make a cigar, and that's
I
totally
love
Sandy.
that.
That's really cool. She's done a lot.
Relationships.
Yeah, she's done a lot for she's turned a lot of nobodies into somebodies really quickly
Yeah.
because she's willing to take a chance on them, and they trust her, and rightfully so. So I think that would be pretty
Yes.
cool. That'd be pretty sick.
That would be cool.
I'd
That
be
would
on
be
board for
cool.
that.
You never
So
know.
if you want to take
Hey, if
that to
you're
the
always
drawing board,
positive, you think positive and you put it out there and you're grateful, some things happen.
absolutely. Well, Aaron, thank you so much. I want to thank Meredith, who
Thank
sat
you,
there
Brad.
very patiently all night as we talked for a long time. I want to thank our audience for staying up late with us. And if you are tuning into us later on, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, including iHeartRadio, you're listening to us courtesy of Gran Habano Cigars. Honest, compassionate, great cigars. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review today. And listen, if you're going to review it, if you're going to give me 1 star, you got to give me some feedback. Just tell me why I suck. That's all I'm asking. To the one guy who left me a 1 star on Apple Podcasts and didn't leave any feedback, you got to tell me why I suck, man. Like that's
Or
just
tell
let
me
me.
why I suck.
Yeah.
Tell Bear it's my fault.
Well, you weren't on the show at the time, so I mean, it wasn't you. So it was totally me. Like just tell me. It's not that hard. But please download, subscribe, and review. And if you already are a subscriber, please hit unsubscribe. But don't forget to hit resubscribe because that really does help my numbers. And again, tonight's audio broadcast is brought to you by Grand Habano Cigars, honest, compassionate, great cigars. Be sure you download, subscribe, and review today. It's been my pleasure to welcome in Aaron Michaelis of Flint Knoll Winery and his tremendous partnership with STG and the creation of the Flint Knoll Reserve Macanudo, number 2 edition on the shelves right now. Go and grab some. Just smoked the Churchill, fantastic. Can't wait to smoke it without the wine, but I did have the great fortune of enjoying some amazing Royal Appointment Cabernet. 2021 vintage, man, like that.
Yeah,
fantastic year.
It's a baby. Oh, it's a really good year. Oh
yeah.
How much did you drink tonight? How much of the bottle did you get to?
I pour small glasses. I don't. You wouldn't even characterize them. I probably I'm about a quarter of the bottle.
Oh, that's not bad. Okay.
Yeah, so, I'd like to. I don't like to fill the glass because then it goes faster. I feel like if you start small, you end small.
Yes. Very proper,
but,
distinguished.
Thank you. Thanks to our audience for staying up late with us, as I mentioned before. Keep those likes, shares, and comments. Keep them coming. You can check out our YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe button there. But always know that you can come to us on Facebook every Sunday night at 9:30 p.m. Central and join all of our guests. We've got some great shows coming up, and this was a great one as well. This was our 292nd take. He's Aaron Michaelis of Flint Knoll Winery in partnership with Macanudo Cigars. I'm Bear Duplessis, live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. Guess what, everybody? We'll see you next time.
Thank you.